Hello everybody and welcome along. It is our coverage of the fourth round of the Touring Car Endurance Series 2017, the Hankook 24 Hours of Barcelona here at the Circuit of Barcelona in Catalonia, and qualifying is next up and it's live in sound and vision via the 24-hour website and radiolemans.com. Well, good evening, everybody, and it is an absolutely lovely evening here at the Circuit de Catalunya. We've already had Silverstone in the 24-hour race and then events in Magny-Cours and Misano, and we arrive here at the penultimate round of the season with the championships for teams, drivers and the young drivers still very much in the balance. Still to come around at Barcelona, Barcelona, yes, here, and Spa-Francorchamps in the second week of October. But just 3 of these 5 rounds will count, the best 3 scores going through, if you will. And despite what you might be able to see on our vision and those rather threatening clouds, they've been here all afternoon and nary a drop of rain since we did the reconnaissance laps earlier on in the day. They just really have been hanging around and not moved over. Paul Truswell is alongside me, John Hindhoff. A good-looking calendar for the Touring Car Endurance Series, which will round off at the 5th round at Spa-Francorchamps in October. And things finally poised, I think we can say, as far as the championships are concerned.
Well, never mind as far as the championship is concerned, but also as far as this particular race is concerned, because you could pick 5-6 cars that are in with a chance of overall victory, I would say. And the trouble is, it's like a lot of these endurance races, it's not necessarily the race that goes to the fleetest. You can look at what logically, and you can say, oh, that's a good car, it's got a good crew of drivers, it's got a good team, they know what they're doing. But then again, Barcelona is a bit of a case unto itself. There's some Barcelona specialists here, and I'm thinking particularly of the number 7 Vaporu KH7 team car, a particular local favourite with Laia Sanz and Francesc Gutierrez Agul amongst the driving lineup. That car, if it were at Silverstone and it was the Silverstone 24 hours, I wouldn't discount it, but I would say that would be amongst the very, very, very dark horses. Whereas here, I'm thinking, well, they're coming here very much with an eye on the victory. And then on top of that, we've got Team Bleekemolen, of course, who won the Silverstone 24 hours, very strong entry. We've got Monlau Competition, or again, another team that's already a winner this year, the number 107. Then the other cars that we should look out for in the TCR class, we've got Red Camel Jordans with Evo and Rick Broikers joining together with JM Littman. So that car will be a very strong contender indeed. That's just from the TCR class cars. And then you've got the Ginettas in the SP3 GT4 class. So it's a very, very wide open field, I think.
And the Ginetta of Colin White Racing, CWS, was the quickest in our one and only practice session, which we covered in audio only over on the Radio Le Mans channel of Radio Show Limited's portfolio of programming. You'll be seeing a few changes in how things are presented to you there in the next few weeks. In fact, eagle-eyed members of the collective may have already spotted 1 or 2 changes on the website and indeed on our social media as well. We'll save that for a week or so's time before we bring all of those changes in. Qualifying here, Paul, is what I would call old-fashioned or proper, perhaps, qualifying, in that you have an amount of time, you send out the cars, and the person who has the best time at the end of it, i.e. the lowest number of minutes and seconds, fastest time, many would say, will start at the sharp end of the grid. And all of the classes are mixed together.
And all of the classes are mixed together. So if an SP3 GT4 car finishes up quickest, it will be on pole. If a TCR class car finishes up quickest, it will be on pole. I know there was a suggestion at Silverstone that we were going to have side-by-side starting, so that all the SP3 GT4s would be on one side of the grid and the TCRs would be on the other side of the grid. That I'm pretty sure hasn't happened for this event. Certainly it was not... It wasn't done at Silverstone, although it was initially mooted as a suggestion. But in that sense, no, you're absolutely right. It is a completely straightforward qualifying session.
They must have known I was coming.
It's a 1 hour session. So again, old-fashioned in the sense that it's... not a very quick. Sometimes we get these very quick
15-minute sessions,
short, sharp,
which I do like.
Which are great fun to watch, lots of pressure. Whereas these ones are a bit more like a kind of full day of cricket. You know, you have to watch the whole thing. And all of a sudden somebody puts in a flyer. So what we'll be trying to do is to watch for when the good drivers get into the cars, see who's likely to be going out. They don't have qualifying tyres. Everybody runs on the same spec of tyre. But apart from that, it is a pretty straightforward qualifying session, John.
And any amount of the team's drivers can get in. It doesn't have to be a nominated driver, and basically you can all have a go if you want, and if you want to throw a new set of Hankooks on every time you go out, you can do.
Yes, exactly. And if you do have a number of drivers, you have to have all of them going out and doing 2 laps at some stage, but that need not be in this session. That could have been in the free practice session that we had earlier on. So in that sense, there is no pressure. However, we do have quite a full grid. We've got 41 cars participating in this year's 24 Hours of Barcelona. Less cars than we've had in the past. It was 64, if memory serves, in last year's race, so a lot less than last year's race, but we don't have any of the GT3 cars that we had last year. But as I say, we do still have a big enough grid that's going to make starting a little bit further up it a bit more important.
Make it worthwhile, yes, to make the effort, if you will. All right, the cars are out on the circuit, or some cars are out on the circuit. The time is running. We've had 2.5 minutes. You've heard from Paul Truswell and me, John Hindhaugh. What about our pit lane team? Well, one should be very familiar to you, and the other one is just Joe Bradley.
Welcome down to the pit lane here at the 24 Hours of Barcelona. Penultimate round of the 2017 TCE Championship for the 24-hour series. And a big welcome to my colleague for this weekend, Diana Binks. Diana, your first experience with Creventic. Yeah, we've had practice sessions, but now the serious stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Joe, and thanks for inviting me along here. It's been amazing so far. The atmosphere down here, certainly in the pit garages, is just quite outstanding, actually. There's such a real passion. You can feel it. Everyone's really ready for the off and being very competitive, but also being incredibly friendly. But I'm sure that once those helmets are on, everything will change.
I was about to say, everyone's been friendly and talkative already there this afternoon. But now that we're getting serious, you will see a lot more intense faces, which I think they've been practicing earlier on.
Absolutely. I think up till the practice sessions yesterday and this morning, we saw, you know, it was more of a relaxed atmosphere. But that practice session just before we head into this qualifying, we saw things had changed slightly, and drivers were doing their driver changes, looking the last bits around the car, checking everything with their engineers and just fine-tuning. And as you can see behind us now, some of the cars are heading out there on track.
Time's running out, guys, and all the important stuff is happening on the track. So if anything does happen of any significance, we're going to be here to grab all the action and get some insight. But for now, I think the qualifying session's about ready to be talked about.
Yeah, good timing, Joe, because there are just 1 or 2 people who are beginning to get heat into those Hankook tyres. Whether the times will come early on in this session, whether the track conditions will be slightly better later on, well, that remains to be seen, to be honest, and I'm not entirely certain I know the answer to that. The track was in pretty good shape earlier on today. There was some promoter testing, promoter test days effectively yesterday in some sessions when I was at the track here just checking things out for our facilities yesterday before the rest of the team landed. We've got a bit of a pincer assault on this part of Spain for this event, as I came down by road on Tuesday as soon as we'd landed from Virginia, jumped in the car, went down to Portsmouth, and thanks to Travel Destinations, the official travel partner of Radio Show Limited, for making my life very easy indeed. Jumped on the Brittany Ferries Britannia, very lovely ship. Got off at San Malo and then drove down through France into Spain, so that I was here on Wednesday evening, and the rest of the team flew into Barcelona from a couple of different airports on Thursday. Just got here in time to do midweek motorsport from the Holiday Inn Express at Montmelo. On board with the Speed Factory 109 Audi RS3 LMS. This is one of over 20 of the TCR class cars coming out of turn 4 into turn 5. Nice late apex here. Get the car into the apex, front wheel drive car, so you'll see the driver of the 109 pushing very, very hard on the initial turn in, trying to get the car in. Don't have to get to the left hand side of the road. Oh, a little bit of turn in, oversteer there. The back Hankook's trying to just spin the car around, maybe a little bit. Oh, he's a bit early into that one as well. He's going to have to just lift off a second. That's at the top of the hill at turn 9. Tricky corner there because the entrance to it is off camber. Now going downhill towards turn 10 into the third sector. Really have to be super late in there, and now climbing, so it's flat on the throttle, up through the gearbox, monster the curbs in a touring car styly, and through turn 12, hug the curb on the inside, pop out over the top of the hill, stay right over to the left hand side. Another late turning because you're only using half the road down the hill into the first part of the chicane at turn 14. 15, get nice and clean out of there, settle it all down, and then down into the final corner, turn number 16, run all the way out to the red and white curbs and come across the line. And that was a lap then for the 109, the TCR Audi, and looking resplendent in its flat black and red. That was Jesus Fuster from Speed Factory Racing. That is the team that has Michael Verges helping them out, and he was in his racing gear earlier on. I'm just slightly confused by that, the fact that I didn't have that car on my list of onboards, so that's an additional one. We have got plenty of them. The 303, very easily recognised. That's the bright tangerine. The car in that colour purely to match the shirt that Diana's wearing at this race. It's the red camel car.
As always, Red Camel's car running as an orange car, 303. Ivo Breukers and Rick Breukers joined not only by Bert de Hoys, but also by J.M. Littman this weekend for the 24 hours. J.M., huge enthusiast for the 24H series, and not only a huge enthusiast, but also has been going quite well in the championship. There are individual drivers' championships as well as teams' championships, and JM has, I was going to say, managed to get himself. That sounds like it's a bit of a fraud, but J.M. Littman, by virtue of his achievements in the championship, is probably a politer way to put it, is up in 4th place in the championship of drivers overall, and so he will be looking to, in fact, as far as I know, he's also the top TCR driver. I'll have to check that one, but I think he'll be top TCR driver, so he is, we're on only round 4 out of 5, but the problem is, with the way that the Ventic Series points works, is you have to drop your 2 best scores. And I have to say, who's ever at the wheel of the 303 at the moment,
Rick Breukers,
is driving it with great verve, but then Rick Breukers always drives things with great verve, and I think he'll probably be enjoying, John, getting back into the front-wheel drive Seat, because he's been driving a lot of more planted, aerodynamically stable rear-wheel drive vehicles recently, and he'll be enjoying the Seat, I suspect.
I think the top TCR drivers will be the Monlau competition drivers, won't they? So
yes, yeah.
That'll be Jose Manuel, Jürgen and Alba are the Monlau drivers, if memory serves.
Yeah, no, if I
pull up another screen.
Yes, that one's asking.
Barely enough screens here in the booth. Beautiful evening, as we've mentioned. Sun just dropping now. So what time is this? We'll have to keep a note for this for Saturday into Sunday. So this is what, 10 to 7, 5 to 7 local time. And the sun, from our point of view, beginning to get difficult because it's dropped below the extended portion of the grandstand under which we sit, and we're right at the top of the grandstand in the F1 TV commentary boxes, and it's out from behind a cloud as well. And in about half an hour or so, maybe a little more, it's going to be in the faces of the drivers as they go up through turns 1 and 2 and possibly into turn 12 as well.
There are some ups and downs, some elevation changes as well, of course, which makes it even more difficult to see sometimes. Sunset due at 8:25, John. So we've got all of this session will be in broad daylight. This being the qualifying session, that is then followed by the night practice session, which it will be properly dark for.
So go down to the pit lane. Diana Binks has an update on the RKC TGM Honda, which has had a problem or two. Diana?
Absolutely. The car has just come in. Mark's just come back in. Now, earlier on, before we came on to the TV side of things, they had some gear selection problems, but we understand everything's now sorted. Mark's just been out to put in those laps, and there's not a problem now, so they're hoping to get the next driver who's just jumped in and get back out on track and obviously make up for that lack of track time just a little bit earlier. But everyone seems quite happy, quite comfortable, and all ready to go again.
I think that might have been David Drinkwater that got in that car, but I didn't quite catch. If I've got two to choose from, I'll normally pick the wrong one. That's the fueling stop that the Peugeot has just come out of. Now, it's a very interesting machine, the 226 car. I'll talk about the fuel stop in a moment when we get another chance to show it to you on the pictures as well. The 226 is a Peugeot 1600cc 308 RC, and that stands for Racing Cup. It's one of the single manufacturer championship. It's an old Belgian lineup from the SEM Speed Belgian team, but it's in the SP3 GT4 class, and basically because that's where the performance of that car lies. It's a fine looking machine and plenty of variety here, although half the field are TCR cars and half the TCR cars are Seats. We still have Renaults, like the 180 Alder Motorsport car, which is out on the circuit at the moment in its mainly white, red and black livery. Keep an eye open for the 107, the Monlau competition car. That's the red and white Seat, and that is the car that has been so successful here. Just going into the first corner, the 103 TTC Swiss entered Seat Leon. This is another one of the TCR cars, getting a chance to run through as many of our entries as we can in this early part of qualifying, just so you and we see them. The 167 is Winkler tuning, and this is one of 4 diesel cars we have here at A2, all Austrian crude car for Winkler, E46 BMW 123D. Those cars will go very long on fuel, but a reminder from Paul earlier on when we were talking about this with... Who were we talking about it with? We were talking about it with Oyser, that the maximum stint in the car for a driver is 2 hours. And that would be 2 hours from getting in to getting out, Paul. If he comes in and takes fuel and tyres in the middle of that, that's a running clock.
No, not anymore. It's a change for 2017.
Right.
So in 2016, that was the rule. This year, that's not the rule.
That'll be me, always a year late and $1 short.
So now, if you double stint, then time spent in the pit doesn't count.
Ah, right. Okay, so time spent in the pit doesn't count, but your 2 stints are then added together to the 2 hour maximum.
Exactly.
So you can't do an hour, come in and go out for another 2 hours.
No.
Right,
no.
got you.
No, the time, if you come in and get out of the car, then you have to have a rest equivalent to half of the driving stint you've just done. If you come in, stay in the car, then all that happens is the time that you were in the pit lane gets subtracted from your driving time. And now, that's a good question. Whether the isn't driving time isn't on the Alcamel screen, so we'll try and keep on top of that one for you and be able to tell you when people are approaching maximum driving time during the race itself. A little bit of a clarification on J.M. Lippmann as well, for I confused myself. He's actually got himself, as you say, in 4th place in the Drivers' Series, but he's in a different position in 3 different classes as far as the drivers per class is concerned, because he's participated in different classes of different cars. What he's allowed to do for the overall is add them all together. But for the individual classes, he's got 2 scores of 18 in different classes and 1 score of 22 in different classes. So this is round 4. He's had 3 races so far. He's scored points in every round, so he's automatically in the position where he now has to start dropping points. But he will be able to add to his tally in the individual class championships in which he's participated.
The Seat Leon TCE in the Mondrian-esque colour scheme, which is very pretty indeed, circulating at the moment. That's one that we should be able to spot. That's the 125, isn't it? 125? I was looking at that car in the pits earlier on. That's going to really annoy me. It's the NKPP car, and
yes, it is 125.
It is 125. I was confusing myself there, trying to read the number when I should have just gone with it. This is one of Baz Cowden's cars, and the NKPP racing team have been, and Baz Cowden have been big supporters of this for this type of racing for quite some time.
This champions.
Yes, indeed. TCR V3 version 3 with the DSG gearbox. And some of them have sequential boxes, which is slightly different. Let's go down to the pit lane and pick up some more news from the drivers and the teams down there.
I'm sure he just does this deliberately. J.M. Lippmann is in yet again another car just to confuse us this weekend. You're in the 303 numbered Red Camel's Jordan Seat. Yeah. J.M., we've just been, Paul's just been going over the anomaly of the driver championships and the drivers class championships, and you're in with a chance of a drivers championship. But the question is that very much at the forefront of your mind at this point of the weekend? Yeah. Or at any point of the weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, we at Mazzano, we had a bad result. We were leading up until the 3 hours ago, and we had a gearbox failure, and that knocked my championship back. But a good result here, and 1.5 points at Spa. There's still a lot to be won, and you know, this is actually the first time in 20 years I've done a complete championship in any series. So I've got trophy fever, I think, at the moment. It'd be lovely to win. It's great to compete. I love the circuit, Barcelona, but it'd be nice to be at the top of the podium, there's no doubt about it.
How much thought can you put into that? How much influence can you have into that when you have got a 24-hour race, though, to get through?
I think it starts when you select the team and you want to know who your other drivers are, because it is a team effort. And when I looked at all the different cars up and down the track, it made sense to go back to Rick Hamill. I've driven with Rick now 3 times this year. He's a terrific driver. If I can get within a couple of seconds with him, and I am today, I'm really happy. Ivo's a really good driver, knows the car. He's been driving 20+ years as well. And Bert's a great experienced driver. So I think actually we don't really have a weak link at this team. We've got a super quick driver of Rick, and everyone else is within a few seconds, and nobody's going to be doing 158s in the race. We'll just hammer out 202s, and you know what, last year I was in the Porsche, and we're not going much slower than the 991 Cup car last year, so it's such a terrific circuit. The fans are great here. When you come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 10,000 people cheering you on, and it's just a lovely place to be, beautiful city, and I love it a lot.
Thanks, Jem. Great to talk to you, as ever.
Jem Lippmann back with the TCR 303, the Red Camel racing car. Right, in the pits, the bright do we call it fluorescent red, or is it a pink colour? I think it's fluorescent red and white. This is the 215 Ginetta, just having had its fuel. Now, the fuel stops in the TCE by Hankook Championship, and indeed in all the Creventic Championships, are a wee bit different because there's no fueling in the pit lane. It's the NM Racing team, local team from Barcelona, gets back to its pit. No fueling in the pit lane. The advantages there is no nasty burny stuff in pit lane if it all goes wrong, and also means you will see people in t-shirts and jeans working on the cars because there's no refueling, so they don't need to have fireproof in the pit lane, but you do need to have fireproofs if you are filling the car up. There are 4 double-sided pumps in the refueling area, so potentially 8 cars can fuel at once. Part of the tactics here is to get into a pump without any delay and when one is free. And that is, teams use various things. Some of the guys will have spotters down by the fueling, or up here where we are, you can see right down into it, and you'll call your driver as they come out of the last chicane where the 216 is right now, and say, right into the pit lane. You can make a late decision there because you're going quite slow, and then it's a right-hand turn from the pit lane into effectively a big lay-by with petrol pumps in it. And it works really, really well. The additional part of that in terms of the team's benefit is you don't have to have expensive fueling equipment because they are pistol grip pumps, just like the Nordschleifer in the pit lane there, except they're not in the pit lane. And it's good. It's worked really well down through the years. The moderner cars, 216 and 217, both have onboard cameras.
I think the other aspect of it is as well, John, is that, I mean, we were talking earlier on about the fact that every car has a different amount that it is allowed to refuel. It makes the control of that actually relatively straightforward because all of the refueling takes place in one place, and so as far as Creventic is concerned,
that is a very good point.
Can just have one person monitoring those fuel tanks.
Each pump.
And every time a car goes out, they just check. Let's see the readout on the fuel tank, please. Right, thank you very much. Write it down. Whereas if they were running the entire length of the pit lane, there'd be more borne out than Joe Bradley would be at the end.
You would need officials at every part of the pit lane that someone was being refueled.
So it enables
very good point.
Control that the organisers use to happen because of the way that they do that. So yeah, I mean, there's so many times when you're kind of reflecting on the way that Creventic races works. You're thinking, yeah, it's pretty clever, isn't it? Have a rundown of the times because we've.
Oh yes, this is qualifying, so they do count. So at the moment, we have the local team on a prime spot in pole position.
Yes, that's the 215 NM Racing Ginetta. Nikolai Dmitriev is the only driver who's driven that car thus far in the session, a 157.298. And then second fastest is a 158.441 for the Estonian racing team. Number 981, Thomas Padovani at the wheel of the Estonian racing Porsche Cayman. So he is just over a second slower. Third fastest is the fastest of the TCR class cars. That's Rick Breukers in the red Camel Jordan's Seat Leon, a 158.480. Fourth fastest overall is Sebastian Blekemolen driving the Team Blekemolen Seat Leon, second in TCR, 158.854. And fifth fastest, third in TCR, is the AC Motorsport Audi RS3, number 888, Marc Guyot, having taken that round in 1 minute 59.324. In sixth place overall and third in the SP3 GT4 class is the CWS car, number 178, the Ginetta Patrick Mathieson, who's done a 158.447, and all of those times, I've got another one, 2 minutes, 2 more left in the under 2 minutes yet, in fact. Seventh fastest is Jose Manuel Perez in the Mondial Competition Seat, he's done a 159.731. Eighth fastest is Stewie Hall in number 237. This is the Stratton Motorsport Aston Martin GT4. Fourth in GT4, 159.978. So That's the top 8, all under 2 minutes. And John, that's an indication, isn't it, of just how competitive all of a sudden it's become when it's become serious and it's become for qualifying.
Yeah, and I think the point that you made in our audio portion earlier on is the problem for an 886 Audi coming out. This is the AC Motorsport RS3 LMS. That car has ground to a halt on the exit. It's a very long blend line here at Barcelona. It pretty much goes down right to the first corner. So you have to stay to drivers right of that. It's not blocking the pit lane exit. There's still enough room to go there, but people are going to have to be a bit careful. And I think the point that you made earlier on the radio part of our broadcast earlier on, before we are synchronised as we are now in sound and vision, about the fact that these cars are so evenly matched. Yes, there are reference times as part of the balance of performance, but generally speaking, I'm not picking a winner. I'm not even prepared at the moment. And I think if you'd put my arm up my back earlier on this week, and indeed on Midweek Motorsport, I was fairly certain that a TCR car would win this, having seen the pace of the GT4 cars, the SP3 cars, and particularly the white and green 178 CWS, and now the NM Racing team, that red and white car, the 216. I'm not even sure about which class of car will win, never mind about which car will win. Now, it's accepted, Paul, that I think everybody comes here accepting that this is a touring car endurance series. Therefore, the expectation is that it would be one of the touring car classes, and therefore TCR, in normal thinking, as the top touring car class, and the cars that are fastest in the touring car classes, that should be leading the race and winning it. But I'm really not sure anymore.
Well, it depends what the minimum reference lap times are, because according to the initial regulations, 1:59 was going to be the minimum that an SP3 GT4 car was going to be able to do. Now, Gary Willems told me during the lunch break that the minimum time...
He was one of the organisers, you should say.
Yeah, somebody who should know. The minimum time for an SP3 GT4 was 1:57. So what I think has happened is that they've actually shifted the minimum reference lap times down a bit. Now, as I say, I need to have that confirmed, but we'll find out before the race starts. And there is a driver's briefing after this qualifying session for the GT3 class, sorry, the GT4 SP3 class cars, in order for them to nominate which class they've chosen to go into, not which class, but which category within SP3 GT4, and therefore which minimum reference lap time they have, because there's 4 of them between 1:59 and 2:02. But at the moment, the SP3 GT4's down there in the 1:57s, very rapid indeed.
The AC Motorsport Audi, which was struggling at the end of pit lane, has struggled further. It did get moving, but not very far, I'm afraid. The Belgian entered team for Stefan Perrin, Vincent Rademacher is a name that you'll recognise, and Raphael Galliana are all... oh, that's a French driver, so 2 French and a Belgians in there. Stefan and Raphael, along with the Belgian Vincent Rademacher, but a Belgian entered car. That car's now being pushed behind the wall.
That's the 888 car you're talking
Yes,
about.
It is, the SC car.
And
now,
that's third fastest in TCR.
Now, the good news, bad news is it's behind the wall. Always bad news with only 31 minutes. We've had half this qualifying session already. We'll run you through the top times in each of the particular classes in a moment. I'll give Paul due warning of that. Bad news is behind the wall for AC, the 888 Audi. Good news is it's on the right side of the track to get it back to the pits. Better news is happy to get it back to the pits and get it fixed, and that is the same in the race. So take from your mind any thoughts of outside assistance takes you out of endurance racing. That is how other series do it, including the WEC and the ACO. This is very much not that mindset. This is, you've paid your money, you'll get your racing if you can get the car back out. Problems for the Ginetta number 446. This is the black, yellow and red car. The endurance team Romania stepping up to this car from a Toyota GT86 for this weekend. And that car stopped out on the circuit. In fact, actually, he's gone straight on at turn 10, and he's on the run-off. Oh, excuse me. And of course, just as the marshals get to it, the car fires up, the V6 bursts into life. Now, I think we should use that part of the track because it's a less severe corner than the one he's just gone by. The problem will be it's a longer run down into it, therefore greater speed before you brake, and also a longer run into turn 11 at 12, the left kink and the right-handed 180-degree hairpin, and therefore you'd have more speed there as well. And I'm sure that's the thinking of Krevennik.
That was the car as well, John, that had the problem during this morning's, sorry, not this morning's, nothing's happened this morning, the session earlier today, the free practice session, that car having a spin, very attractively liveried Ginetta, I have to say, 446, entered by the Endurance Team Romania, Sergei Nicolai, Fabrizio Broghi, Stefan Unchiazu, and Kostin Mihai, along with the somewhat easier to pronounce Kenneth Mantovani, the American driver, and they will now be bringing the car back into the pits to see what further progress they can make with it. Nikolai Dmitriev at the wheel of the 215 car, still at the wheel. He's had a pit stop, but not lapping now as quickly as he did earlier on. And Patrick Mathieson in the 178 CWS Ginetta is now second fastest. So it's an SP3 GT4 1, 2, 3 at the top of the list. Dmitriev with the NM Racing Ginetta best at 157.298. Patrick Mathieson with the CWS Ginetta at 157.907. And that's number 178. 981 is the third fastest car, the Estonian Racing Porsche Cayman. All of those cars GT full, I'd say full house, proper GT4 cars as opposed to the sort of hybrid SP3s, and a 158.441. So those are the top three overall, and in SP3 GT4. In fourth place is the fastest of the TCR cars, 158.480, and that's almost 2 seconds faster than TCR went last year. So very rapid indeed from Rick Breukers at the wheel of the Red Camel Jordans.NL Seat. Again, Rick is the only driver to have driven the number 303 car, 158.480. He is under 0.4 of a second quicker than the second fastest TCR class car, and that's car number 100, the Sebastian Bleekemolen driving the Team Bleekemolen Seat. And then third fastest is the, it would seem troubled, 888 Audi, the AC Motorsport car, a best of 159.324 for that car in the hands of Mark Guillot. In the classes, the fastest car in A3 is number 128, the multi-competition Seat, Philippe Burel at the wheel. He has done a 2 minutes 04.346, and in A2, just to say very quickly, the fastest car in A2 is the BMW of 2 minutes 8.137 of the Resi Racing Team. John.
And problems for that 888 AC Audi earlier on. It's gone back behind the wall after stalling on the way out the pits. Diana Binks is down in their pits with Vincent Rademacher.
Yes, I am. Thank you, John. Vincent, we can see from the pictures that the car's gone behind the wall. Have you got any idea of what the problems are?
No, I don't. No, we don't have the contact radio with the driver, so we don't know what happened. I bring back the car after my qualifying lap, and everything was normal, so I jump in the car, start the engine, start on the track, and I don't know what happened. Really no.
That's a bit frustrating, isn't it, at this point, because obviously this doesn't bode well for your qualifying position at the end.
Yeah, the qualifying is done. It's 24 hours, so I will not jump back in the car to find 2 or 3 tenths of a second. So we are in a good place, top 10 for the moment, and 3, I think, in TCR. It's enough for 24 hours, enough. So now we have to see what's the issue with the car and find a solution. Yeah.
From the few laps that you managed to get in, what did you find?
Traffic. That was the most difficult thing. The tires doesn't last very much here because the tarmac is really abrasive, and so you have really one good lap for the tires, and I did it on my 3rd lap because of the traffic, so we lost a little bit of performance after that, but again, it's not important for 24 hours.
Well, for the moment, thank you, Vincent.
Thank you.
Dinah Binks joining us for the first time here on the Radio Show Limited Network here at Crevendic. We're trackside at the Circuit de Catalunya for qualifying. Just 25.5 minutes still to go. In that TCR category, I was talking about the Seat Leons and the DSGs versus sequential versus a Seat Leon Cup racer that's in there, the SICL.com car, which apparently is a little more powerful. However, we have got another Seat Leon Super Copa out there, but that's a Mark II car with the slightly rounder front grille and headlights. That is in the A3 category, not the TCR category. So you see that one, it's yellow and black, 128 multi-competition, multi, M-A-L-T-I. That's not the same shape as the 125 NKPP, the multicoloured car, the one that I described as Mondrian-esque earlier. We had a Peugeot 908 that ran in those colours at Ricard for a long race that we had there, which I was about to say was a 6-hour race, but it wasn't. It was actually longer than... no, it was a 6-hour race. It wasn't a 1000k race, and it went to 1500 kilometres. That was the one that had the big crash at the front of it, I think, when the race director, or at least the man who was pushing the button, who ironically was Gerard Neveu, the man who at the moment is at the head of the WEC, was general manager at Paul Ricard circuit then, pushed the button at the end of the first warm-up lap rather than at the end of the second. We had a huge crash which took out almost all of the GT Porsches. And because the race went longer than... was it? I've got to get this right. It went long enough in distance that extra points were awarded to it. And that was a new reg that year. And because half the Porsches, in fact nearly all of the Porsches in GT, had been wiped out before effectively the green flag, had to change the rules halfway through the season and allow a dropped score. Now I think that was an ILMC race or maybe an ELMS race when they still had
I think it was yeah, I think you may be confusing two races, John, and I can't remember the exact detail of it, so I can't...
it was Graham Tyler and I that were in the box. I remember that for the crash.
I'm pretty sure it was a Le Mans Series race.
LMS race, okay.
So it was before the Le Mans Endurance Series, but I think that was a different one from the one which has triggered all of this, because one that triggered all of this was you talking about a Peugeot 908, and that I think was a different race.
All right.
I think there was
I think you might be right actually, because I'm sure it was an Audi that won that race. That was exactly. The long race.
So I think we need to do a little bit of homework, and
I may be conflating,
but conflating is exactly the right word to describe what you're doing. Yes. So it's
definitely both at Ricard though.
And did we see the 168 Spirit Racing Clio Cup car have a spin and continue?
Yes, we did.
We did, okay.
And I can tell you that the 888 is back, fired up again. Not really sure, Fred AC Racing, not really sure what the problem was, but the driver basically hit every button and then did control on delay, turn it off, turn it on again, wound down the right-hand side window, and then it started, and it's fine now.
But has now lost its third place, which who was it we were hearing from a moment ago? Vincent Rademacher, was telling us he was in third place in TCR. Well, he was at the time, but they've now been pushed down to 5th place in the class, behind, yes, another Seat, but also, so they're not now the fastest Audi RS3 either, because number 122, the pit lane Competizione Audi, has now gone more quickly than them in the hands of John Philippi. He has done a 1 minute 59.142. So altogether, we now have some 12 cars underneath the 2-minute mark, and 8 of those are TCR class cars. And as I say, the 888 AC Motorsport Audi is now in 5th place in TCR. Still Rick Broikers the quickest, ahead of the now Mondial Competition Seat, which has moved up to 2nd in TCR, thanks to the efforts of Jose Manuel Perez, who's done a 158.546.
And Monlau have led the most laps, haven't they, this year in TCE, which is a total of 592.
Okay, I'd have to. I'm not denying that.
It's 148 more than Team Blake and Moreland.
I was going to say, my money would have gone on Team Blake and Moreland, but that's possibly because Silverstone is a longer lap than. Where was the other 24-hour race? Misano. And it was Monlau that won at Misano. And of course, Monlau
have led a race at every one of the TCE races, the Touring Car Endurance race so far. The only team, I think, to have done that.
Yes. Could well be. Yeah, so some great statistics in the race day programme. If you want your own copy of the race day programme, don't fear, because it's available on the 24H Series website.
Of course it is, because that's how they do things.
Yeah, quite so. 24hseries.com is the website of which John and I are talking. And if you go down to the setup there for Barcelona and then go to magazine, they call it, that's your race day programme. And so you can download that and have a look at it and find out where John is getting his information from.
216 Seat in the shades of orange and purple adorning the side and the roof of that mainly white car with the big stick out arches. This is where TCR, I think, have got it absolutely right, because those almost Group 5 arches, for those of a certain age, you'll know what I mean if you don't go and look it up on a well-known search engine. Just those boxy arches, I think they look fantastic. And there's something about these touring cars that really suit that style of accoutrement.
This is Benny Simonson at the wheel of this car, John, and Benny was certainly one of the stars of the Silverstone 24 Hours, which we were lucky enough to watch. He really did get to grips with driving this car, and he's actually due to drive both of the Modena Motorsports cars, both 216 and 217, potentially to be driven by Benny over the course of the race. Although Philippe Descoumes is also down to drive both cars, and it may well be that one tends to focus on one car and the other tends to focus on the other. Wayne Shen, Francis Tia and John Shen driving in the 216 car alongside Benny, and the 217 car has Marcel Tia and Michael Soriadiaha and Christian Kia driving. So those are the somewhat difficult to pronounce names of the two Modena Motorsports Seats, which I think we're supposed to also have in-car shots from during the race as well. So we'll look forward to that.
To the 207, 216 and 217 both have on board.
Both the Modena cars, yeah.
Yeah, we also should have on board at some stage from the 125 BAV's Counting car, the 120C at SICL.com. Seat, the 109 Speed Factory Audi, the 303 Red Camel Seat, and the 107 Monlau car, the guys who are really with the big momentum at the moment. So, in fact, we're going to go down to Monlau in a moment as Joe Bradley is just setting up an interview there with Albacano Ramirez, one of our lady drivers, the Spanish lady driver in that 107 Monlau competition car.
Ah, right, you're with us. Sorry, guys. Alba, the 107, the Monlau car. The car won at Manicourt. It has won at Misano. You were on the pole position at Silverstone. That is a lot of pressure. Is that muy bien or muy mal?
Okay, it's good because we are more relaxed for the championship because we are first. But our first priority now is maintain, finish the race, and think in Spa instead of try to win this race. This is the most difficult one of the championships.
Is it Jesus in the car at the moment? Jesus in the car?
It's Jose Manuel Aicar.
Jose, sorry, watch your back. Is it important to put the car on pole position like you did at Silverstone?
Oh, well, it's good for us because it means that we are really fast. But it's not so important because it's a 24-hour race and it's endurance race. So we don't need to be the first one in the pole position.
How is university going? I know you're at Oxford Brookes. Are you coming towards the end of your degree?
Yes, I have just finished, and now I've come back to Spain.
And have you come back with a degree?
No, I finished it.
All right. And you were studying, was it aerodynamics or?
Motorsport, the master in motorsport engineering.
Right, and you enjoyed that, yes?
Yes.
And can you apply that to when you were as a driver, you apply what you learned at university as an engineer?
Yeah, it's really useful because I'm studying for it, and I understand everything better, and I can suggest better for the engineers and relation between what I feel in the car and what we can do with the setup.
Great stuff. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
All Joe's Spanish used in one single interview there, except the one about the small person talking too much, but couldn't manage to work that one in there, rather disappointingly. Or Audrey's Pizza. 167 has stopped at the little kink at turn 8, which is the uphill before the right-hander at turn 9, and that's the 167 car with a problem out there. That means yellow flags
the
in that area.
Delightfully named Winkler Tuning BMW 123D from the A2 class, edited by Michael Winkler, joined by 3 fellow Austrians, Markus Meyer, Michael Reinhoff and Markus Reitbauer, amongst the unpronounceable names we've got. I suppose they could be worse.
No, they're easy. Particularly for you, who speaks fluent German.
Well, he's passable German at least. The 167 currently 4th in the A2 class, which gives me the opportunity to mention the class leader in A2, which is the 194 car, still the Resi Racing team car. That's down to 2 minutes 08.031, some 4 seconds a lap quicker than the second fastest car in A2, which is number 168, the Spirit Racing Renault Clio Cup car. And in third place in A2, number 71 is Cor Heuser with his diesel-engined BMW. In the BMW Cup class, mentioning that one as well for value for money, 154, the QSR Racing School team of Mario Timmers, Rodrigo Guillon and Jimmy De Broeker. They are currently the fastest in the QSR team car, ahead of the 235 class car, which was quicker in the earlier practice session that we had to do where racing BMW. But the 2 of them have now been separated again by a big margin, 4 seconds quicker for the QSR car.
Still yellow flags out on the circuit, so nobody should really be improving their time. Certainly not getting fastest times of the session in sector 2, although there are still better times coming in. And this is qualifying. We're down to the last dozen minutes, and just for a moment the sun's gone behind a cloud. Now, not sure whether that's good, bad or indifferent, but if it's good, get your fast driver out there as quickly as possible on a new set of Hankooks.
Certainly makes it easier for us to see here in the box, because as often happens, commentary boxes face west. I don't know why that always is. Actually, it's not true, because a lot of the time they face east and you get morning sunshine, which is just as bad. Anyway, yeah, as John says, it certainly has become no sun, but I'm not sure that will affect things that much. It hasn't been a baking hot day today. Temperatures in the mid-20s rather than getting into the 30s, but nevertheless very pleasant weather here in Barcelona. The storms that we had earlier in the week have passed, and hopefully there won't be any more.
109 Speed Factory Audi. And Michael Verges involved in this team. Right hand indicator going, and the car is going slowly up the hill from 11 to 12 towards the end of the lap.
Miguel Abello currently behind the wheel of that car.
Ah, right. I've got Michael Verges on my screen.
Okay, let me check a different screen.
109, that is, Speed Factory Racing. Now he's speeding up. The indicator has gone off, so I think he was looking for space. I don't think that was... no. but he's slowed down again there. Is he just getting a good run at the final corner? If he peels off into the pit lane, we will know. He does not. He comes round turn 60 and heads across the line. I think this is going to be a decent lap by Michael Verges. Let's just watch him down. Well, he's weaving side to side, but the sun has gone in. He's got a bit of a gap there. He's meant to be running the team here, but brought his kit, signed on as a spare driver, down through turn 1 and 2, which is effectively a chicane. And he was seeing that the car was pushing, had a little bit of understeer earlier on. We'll keep an eye on the split times as we head down to the pit lane for more driver reaction here from the Circuit de Catalunya. Thanks,
John. I'm with Colin White. Tom just came in there for a quick change of tyres and back out on track. I mean, he's doing it ever so well, isn't he? P2 at the moment.
That's right, yeah. He's come along yesterday in his first time in the car, and he's going quick now, so we've just put on a new set of tyres so we can clinch pole position.
Was there any sort of slight delay there? I saw there was just maybe a minuscule of delay, or was anything to worry about?
Well, we was trying to get the tyre people to fit the tyres in. It's cutting a bit short. We only got 10 minutes to go, and they hadn't quite balanced them, so we had to just take them as they are.
How's the whole overall session going for the rest of you?
The session's gone very well. Everybody's enjoyed it, and it's quite busy out there. Quite a lot of cars in this series at the moment.
Is that something that's difficult to manage when you get the traffic with so many cars on the grid, which is great for racing, but obviously when you're trying to set that respective qualifying time?
There's nothing worse than being on a flyer and you get to the last corner and someone's going round there slow. Yeah, but everybody's got the same problem, so you've got to hang back, try and find a clear gap, then go for it.
How much are conditions changing? Because obviously we can see it's just got slightly cooler.
Yeah, the temperature's dropping, so the engine can run a little bit better. Track temperature down a little bit, so we should be able to go faster.
Well, good luck. Obviously, still a bit of time to go for the moment, Colin. Thank you.
Colin White, CWS Racing, and the 178 car, Tom Wrigley, the Tom of which we were speaking there. Porsche Carrera Cup GP runner, first endurance race. I think first time in a Ginetta.
And first time at Catalunya.
And first time at Catalunya, yeah. I was trying to think if he had done a bit of Ginetta racing. Someone's just asked if this is first time, tweeted should I say, at RSL_studio. Is this Michael Verge's first time in a touring car? He tested the Ford Mondeo, and I remember that at the time, but I can't remember whether he's raced one. And I'm going to have to try and look that up now if somebody knows and can save me that. And thank you very much for clearing up. Paul was absolutely right. The Mondrian Peugeot was 2010, a number of people asking you that. The starter-induced false start was 2011. So that was two different races. Now, tell me which one of those went to 2010 or 2011?
The first one.
Went to the long distance.
Yes.
It was the 2010 one, wasn't it? Yeah.
And it was, yes, it was one of those more complicated, aspects. Yeah, Michael Verges now is at the wheel of the Speed Factory Racing. I suggest it was Miguel Abello. That's my system getting itself confused with 5 drivers already being listed for that car, and there's only so much a computer can cope with, and 6 drivers is one of those things that it can't. Anyway, Michael is having a great time. If you've got vision of the stream, the onboard is showing how much he was very much looking to get a nice clear lap. I think Colin White said it, and before him as well, we heard the same thing from Vincent Rademacher, that traffic, even on a circuit like this with only touring cars is out there, is still a problem. But Michael, certainly a great lap here from Michael Verges. We'll see what it is at the end. The best lap so far from that car, a 2 minute 0.712. That's what he's got to beat in the 109 Audi, and he's coming down now into the final turn. Comes up to cross the line, breaks the beam in a time of 59.535. So improves the time. Then Michael Verges at the wheel of the Audi, sub 2 minutes for the first time for that car. 1 minute 59.535 puts him up to 7th in the TCR class and 10th place overall, and means that in total we now have 14 cars underneath the 2 minute mark.
Tom Wrigley knows Ginetta's very well because he won the GT4 Super Cup last year. Thank you you, Josh, for reminding me of that. 107 going slowly again, the Monlau competition car, but again, I think just looking for pace. Oh, the Vortex is not going to like that if that is the case. Just about getting up to speed on the far side of the circuit, heading down to the start of the run to the start line, 13, 14 and 15. So, yeah, no problem there. But the Vortex, the white Vortex, with a vaguely Scirocco-esque front end to this version of the Vortex. We've seen a few down through the years, BMW looky-likes and other manufacturers. Also being asked, is this 24 hours all the way through or into two parts? No, the race as Silverstone will be all the way through. The TV crew take a break at 11 o'clock in the evening and come back at 7. Leave some streaming cameras on for you. That's when we'll take a break as well. In fact, I'm just being told we are out at midnight and back at 8 o'clock in the morning, so that's a slight change from what you might have seen on the online programming. So that is local time here. So the start of the race, in fact half an hour before the start of the race, Joe and Diana will be on the grid, and then the start of the race is midday Central European summertime. We'll run till midnight and then all pile back to the Holiday Inn Express for a few hours of rest, and then a breakfast in the morning before the dash to the flag, the last 4 hours, and a very, very sensible midday finish. And all 24-hour races should start at midday or earlier, I think.
Well, Misano, I think it was, started at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Great.
Which was fine, except I wasn't there, so I can't really speak from personally having experienced it. But they said one of the problems was that it all finished a little bit too early. You know, you got through the night and you thought, phew, we got through all this end of the race.
And there we are, we're finished.
And yes, so anyway, new fastest lap of the race overall. Fastest lap of the session overall, I should say. Car number 215. And that's Ivan Pareras in the NM Racing Team Ginetta. He's just done a 1:57.241, which puts more than half a second between himself and the CWS Ginetta. And
Ivan is 16 years old, and I think this might be his first car race that he's done. He's done 2 years of touring cars and 7 years of karting. So he raced first as a 6-year-old, but 16-year-old. He's had 10 years of karting, 10 years of racing rather, behind him.
Yeah, so great performance then from Ivan to put in the best lap of the qualifying session thus far, with only a little over 2 minutes of the session remaining. I was about to give the credit to Tom Wrigley, because Tom had just set a fastest second sector time, although it ended up not being a good lap, and he came into the pits at the end of it. So Tom Wrigley then probably was overcome by traffic. So it's the NM Racing Ginetta which is quickest. CWS Ginetta's second quickest, separated by 0.6 of a second. Third quickest, a further 0.3 of a second behind that, is the fastest of the TCR cars, which is number 303, Rick Broikers at the wheel of the red Camel Jordan Seat. Fourth fastest is the number 100, Team Blakemolen Seat, Sebastian Blakemolen, having done a 1:58.319. On that last lap, didn't improve his position, but he did get a little bit closer to Rick Broikers. So he's second fastest in TCR. Third in TCR is number 981, the Estonian Racing Porsche Cayman, in third place in the GT4 class. And then third and sixth overall in the TCR class is Philip Ellis in car number 115, the Bonk Motorsport Audi, as Rick Broikers goes second fastest overall at 1:57.495. 1:57.495 then for Rick Broikers, just a quarter of a second slower than the GT4 class car. So even if they hadn't have wanted to do it side by side, if the session ends now, it's SP3 GT4 fastest, then TCR, then an SP3 GT4, then TCR, then an SP3 GT4. The first 6 cars, John, 3 of each. each of the TCR and SP3 GT4 cars.
Just underlining, with half a minute to go, how wide open this race is live. Right across the weekend here in sound and vision from Circuit de Catalunya. The 24-hour touring car endurance series powered by Hankook on the Radio Show Limited network. RadioLeMans.com fired up for you this weekend. Once again with plenty going on here on RadioLeMans.com as the checkered flag comes out in sound and vision as well. The story on the front page that has the Circuit de Catalunya, and you'll see the player there. No geo-block, no ads, no excuses to miss the action. We've also got the VLN this weekend, and in addition to the VLN on Saturday, we've got qualifying later on Saturday night and the FIA WEC from Mexico as well, with Johnny Palmer looking after that. Dinah Binks is with our pole sitting team down in the pit lane. They seem pretty happy, Ty.
They absolutely, Neil, many congratulations. A great team effort taking pole position. What does it mean for the team?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling for all these people that is doing super effort every day in the workshop, in the circuits, in the test days. I mean, really emotionally, it's amazing. I want to say thank you to all the sponsors, Rosales-Benz, Pakelo, all the mechanics, all the fathers of my drivers. This is really special for me because the 4 drivers come from our karting team. They grow up with our karting team, and then they jump into touring cars, and now in GTs, and we are making the pole position 24 hours, Creventic. So we are really happy.
I was about to ask you about that because obviously your teammate has just set a quicker lap. How did you feel about him, someone you've taught and brought through from karting? He's now just pipped you at the post.
I have to say that we make the same time. Exactly the same time. So that's really nice, really nice.
So you take first honours then, it's you?
I cannot say because it's exactly the same lap.
Wow.
So another anecdote to write for this pole position is that we make exactly the same lap. Really happy for my drivers. They did an amazing job. Nikolai, Maxime, Mark, and everyone did an amazing job.
But incredible the fact that they're so young. I mean, he's 16 years of age, isn't he? And you've brought them through from karting, and it's such an important proving ground when you want to go touring car racing.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's the most enthusiastic detail of this result, no? They grow up in karting in our team, then in touring cars. I have been sit down with them. A lot of scary moments, sit down in the passenger seat with them, coaching them, and now we are here, and they are nearly taking the pole position from me. And I have much more experience than them. So this is really powerful for their part now. Really nice.
Well, it's great to see you so happy, and obviously well done to you and the team.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pretty good effort from everyone concerned there. Dinah Binks with the interview. Paul Truswell looking very good at the top, and a great mix of SP3 GT4 cars and GT3s with the NM Racing Team on top by just 2.5 tenths of a second. Rick Bright is getting pretty close there at the end, though.
Yes, Rick put in a great lap just a couple of minutes before the end, and he shot up the timing. And as I say, like it or not, it's going to be 3 GT4 cars lining up on the right-hand side of the grid and 3 TCR cars lining up on the left-hand side of the grid in the top 6 places.
Absolutely correct, Paul. The 215 Ginetta will have the 178 Ginetta behind it in 3rd position. Time's pretty tight at the sharp end of the field, whereas the Red Cammons Jordan team, who starts on the outside of the pole position, front row, will have Team Blake and Moreland behind them. What I'm interested to see is who they put in as starting drivers. Then it's the Porsche Cayman GT4 of S1 Racing and then Monlau Competition. riding high in the championship. Then we get into 3 TCR cars, 7th, 8th and 9th. Bonk Motorsports Audi, Pit Lane Competiciones Audi and Speed Factory Racing's Audi, 7th, 8th and 9th. And on the outside of row 5, the big 4.7 Aston Martin Vantage GT4, that is the 4th of SP3 GT4 cars. All of those cars, though, still under 2 minutes around here. And indeed, on the next page, we will see that there are plenty more cars under 2 minutes, all the way down to Baz Counting Racing, powered by Kawasaki, in 14th position. One of, I think, 3 Baz Counting cars here this weekend. 155 Seat at 159.965. Modena Motorsports with the 216 and 217 cars absolutely together, 15th and 16th, and just on 2 minutes. 2 minutes .012 and 2 minutes .196, and a phalanx of the TCR cars running down through into the top 20, the bottom end of the top 20. We'll just run through the next couple of pages as well and show you the rest of the qualifiers before we head down into the pit lane. Speed Lover and GDL Racing Team Asia starting from row number 11 for SP3 GT4. Bonk Motorsport, a little isolated as a TCR car between another set of SP3 GT4 cars, including the M3 from Red Ant Racing, the Vortex V6 and the GC Automobile cars running there, as well as the SemSpeed Peugeot. Now, that's the little 1600 car. Further down, you've got the A2, A3 and Cup 1. That's the Duo Racing 235 BMW, a class of just 2 cars, but nevertheless very competitive indeed. 40th position for the 330 diesel of Team Autosport De Jong. They'll be looking just to plod around and make sure that they use all of the fuel that they can. And is that the last sheet on there? I think,
yes,
it is. Yep. Yes, it is. So those are the full qualifying results. Not pole position then for Red Camel Jordans.nl, but Joe Bradley, you could say that Rick Breukers has pole in TCR and will start on the front row.
A class pole position then for the 303 numbered Red Camel Seat. But Rick, I've got one question. How much more times in that Red Camel Seat, Leon?
I think 2/10, honestly.
2/10, really?
Yeah, I made a very small mistake and I had to pass someone in my best lap. So there is a bit more in it, not much, just a bit. We worked on the setup the whole day and yesterday as well, and it really paid off. To be honest, we were really struggling yesterday and this morning. So I'm very happy that the team and we together found a very good setup.
I would imagine race pace is going to be a little bit different to what we've just seen in qualifying.
Yeah, of course, it will probably be a few seconds off. You have to manage the tire wear and you have a full fuel tank. So I guess we will do around 2:01, 2:02, so which is 5 seconds slower. That will be the race pace, I guess.
Great stuff, though, from the Creventic organisers. They've really gotten the classes pretty much together at the front, and it's going to be very, very competitive for the overall victory between the SP3 GT4s and yourselves in the TCR class.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's very interesting to see the race because the SP3 will probably have a completely different strategy than the TCRs. Different fuel capacity and different lap time, so it will be very interesting.
I've just got to say to everyone, it's like he's been in a swimming pool. This is a guy who's young and fit and an athlete, so people like John and I wouldn't stand a chance. Thanks for talking to us, Rick.
Speak for yourself, Bradley. I am the very model of an athletic racing driver. No. Coming up next, we have night practice. The grid is set with one codicil there. The 124 car has had its lap. This is the Insight Racing Denmark car, 17th position. Best lap was cancelled. It was improving under yellow. Mentioned that when we had that car off at turn number 8. Thank you for joining us. Sound and Vision back together again. RadioLeMans.com. If you are carrying us about and don't want to use too much bandwidth, you can get the audio there. Sound and Vision together at 24hseries.com and on the 24H Touring Car Endurance page powered by Hankook at Radio Le Mans. We've got the player there. Thanks to the crew for getting us the pictures, to Joe and Diana down in the pits. Paul and John were up here in the booth. Join us for night practice coming up at 9 o'clock Central European summertime for 90 minutes. Plenty of great images to come and some great sound too. Thanks now. Bye-bye.